The Secrets of Star Wars is brought to you by the Star Quest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give.
Hi, this is Ashley Eckstein, the voice of Ahsoka Tano from Star Wars, and you're listening to the Secrets of Star Wars podcast. May the Force be with you.
You're listening to the Secrets of Star Wars, episode 169.
Hello there.
It's a power that Jedi have that lets them control people and make things float.
Impressive. Every word in that sentence was wrong.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
It's against my programming to impersonate a deity.
That's not how the Force works.
Force is with me, and I am with the Force, and I fear nothing.
Remember, the Force will be with you, always.
Hey everyone, I'm Angela Sealana, and you're listening to the Secrets of Star Wars, where we talk about everything connected to that galaxy far, far away. From books to movies to TV shows and more, we're looking at the deeper themes and meanings found in Star Wars. Today, we're picking up on a series we started quite a while back, our Heroes Character Spotlight series, to examine the character of Ahsoka Tano as we prepare for this series, Ahsoka. And our crew today consists of, first of all, we have the artist herself, Kathryn Laffrey. Hello, Kathryn.
Hello.
Great to have you. We also have got the Guardian of the Wills, Robert King. How's it going, Robert?
Well, the Force is with me, and I'm trying to walk the way.
Great. Sounds good to me. And of course, we also have, we've got to have Dadalorian here because we've had Ahsoka on The Mandalorian a lot. So Chris Hagen, thanks for joining us.
You're very welcome. And the Dadalorian has asked the little Grogu-lings to not come in during the recording tonight. We'll see how that goes.
Good luck with that. All right. So, well, to start off, let's begin with a bit from the Star Wars databank about Ahsoka, and that'll kind of give us a jumping off point here. So what it says at the databank is former Jedi Knight Ahsoka Tano once served as the Padawan learner to the Jedi Anakin Skywalker during the Clone Wars, a respected leader and warrior attuned to the light side of the Force. Ahsoka grew into a formidable fighter before the Empire's reign changed the course of galactic history. Although she walked away from the Jedi Order, she continued to stand up for those fighting for peace and justice in the galaxy long after the fall of the Republic. So before we dive in, I just want to take a brief moment to recognize and thank our heroes, the people that make this podcast possible, our patrons, including John M., Robert B., Thomas P., Nancy M., and Jeffrey B. If you want to help StarQuest continue our mission, please consider becoming a patron like these awesome folks at sqpn.com/give. All right, everyone. So let's begin by sharing some general opinions on Ahsoka. Where do you stand in general on Ahsoka? So I will start with Robert. Let's start with you.
Is this like are we pro Ahsoka or anti Ahsoka kind of question?
It's whatever you want it to be.
I mean, Ahsoka has become one of my favorite characters. I think maybe at a different point than others. I'm not a big fan of early Ahsoka, partly because I'm not a big fan of the Clone Wars in as a series. I know I can see your skeptical faces there, but like the storyline where she ends up departing from the Jedi, that's where like my heart really goes out to her, and watching her development since that point really has strengthened her as like maybe the most complex and interesting character in the Star Wars galaxy for me.
Wow. Okay. Well, we will definitely dive into that more. Kathryn, how about you?
I am so happy that we got to watch Ahsoka's development from a snippy little teenager to the woman she became. And she filled a gap for me because one of my favorite Star Wars characters, who is now no longer canon, is Mara. And I feel like Ahsoka really filled that gap and gave us an interesting Jedi character and so much more.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I've never heard anyone say something like that before, but I like it. How about you, Chris?
Well, I often hear that people really didn't like Ahsoka at the beginning for how snippy she was and such. I did have trouble with her when she was introduced. I seem to have trouble anything in Star Wars where there's new media that comes out and all of a sudden there's this completely new element injected into the story that had no basis before. And that's kind of the struggle I had with her at first, because suddenly Anakin has a Padawan. What? But I do like the Clone Wars quite a bit, the TV show, and her development through that and seeing her and Anakin's relationship. I liked that quite a bit. And then I didn't agree with her choice to walk away from the Order. But boy, it sure made for exciting drama once Rebels came around and she and Darth Vader had to have that encounter. So overall, I am pro Ahsoka.
Wow. Okay. Well, I like how you mix it up there at the end. I am wearing a Ahsoka Tano shirt right now as we're recording. She is just below Obi-Wan as like by a hair as my favorite character in Star Wars. And one of the reasons that I think she is so special to me is because she walked away from the Order. Because that was, I think she represented what a lot of people go through with betrayal and situations where you're really disillusioned. And I think a lot of people, myself included, have experienced those types of situations. And so I even just watched before recording. That was the last thing that I refreshed myself on, was that episode called The Wrong Jedi, where she walks away. And I was bawling at the end of that today because it just speaks so much to some personal experiences that I've had. So Ahsoka is definitely really important to me. And also, as Robert said, she is such an important part of the Star Wars story now. If you think about all the different points that she's been involved in the story, whether that be the downfall of Anakin Skywalker, the downfall of the Jedi Order, this new storyline that we're getting, the new canon with new characters, and she's involved there as well with the Rebels, Rebels era. So there's so much that she's tied into that I think by now you kind of have to be a fan of Ahsoka in some way. Maybe if she's not your favorite character, I think at least you have an appreciation for her. What do you guys think about that opinion?
I mean, it's almost like the Skywalker saga is an episode in the Tano saga at this point. It's and I think I'm on board with that. I have a number of friends who are not really Star Wars fans, and they see the movies, it's part of the cultural zeitgeist, and they know Luke, I am your father, and that's about it. And trying to introduce the character of Ahsoka to them it's like telling them there's a whole other side to the story that you haven't seen at all, and it's frustrating how little Ahsoka has been present in like the big stories that most people know about.
Even though I've heard many people say that some of the best Star Wars moments that we've had involve some of Ahsoka's dramatic moments.
Oh yeah. Like you said, her duel with Vader is so iconic, and
Oh, she's had some of the best duels out there. Her duel with Maul.
Yes.
Wow. That was incredible. And I'm so glad they created that, into the story and added all of that. It just showed how strong she was, and her resolution was just amazing. I love everything about just the character development. And the fact that we got to watch her grow up. That's what I love about it. I try to tell people, please, the Clone Wars is not just for kids. Get through the first couple of episodes, and then you get to watch this beautiful character develop, and you get so much depth. To me, I liked it so much more than Anakin's development, because we see little kid Anakin. Next thing you know, he's like grown up, angsty, soon to be 20-year-old, and it was just nice to see that development. That was really cool.
Well, let's talk about since this is our Heroes series, what makes her a good hero in your opinion? And Kathryn, you shared some of that, so I don't know if you kind of want to just pick up on that and run with it.
I'd say like the best thing about Ahsoka as far as being a hero is that she is always seeking truth. Even if it's difficult, she's seeking truth and asking why. Why is it this way? She wasn't afraid to, question what the Republic's doing, even early on. And so it was neat to see someone like that who's kind of like this, barometer of truth, what's really happening in the story.
That's interesting. Chris, since you mentioned that you disagreed with her walking away from the Jedi Order, I wonder what your thought is on how that sort of ties into her being a hero, or maybe if you think that's a deviation from her heroic choices.
Well, I think it was a heroic choice on her part to do that. In line with what Kathryn was saying, because she was seeing a truth about the Jedi Order that she thought, I cannot be a part of this. So I do think she was heroic in that choice. I think ultimately the Jedi Order needed being reformed and redeemed. And so that's why I think it was wrong for her to leave it. But definitely a heroic choice. And I'm one of the parts of her story that I rewatched recently was her Rebels episodes leading up to confronting Vader, and she wanted to know the truth about, is this really Anakin or not? So again, that's her pursuing the truth, even if it's going to hurt a whole lot.
Yeah. And Robert, what do you think about what makes her a good hero?
I mean, similar to what Kathryn said, I think if I had to sum Ahsoka up in one word, it would be integrity. That she is absolutely devoted to both, to put it in Catholic terms, to both informing her conscience as fully as she can and following her conscience without regard for her own comfort or discomfort. That she wants to know what's good, what's true, what's right, and pursue it no matter what. And she's willing to face whatever consequences may fall from that.
Yeah. And I totally agree with that. I would say, in addition to her strong moral compass, just her sense of charisma. I think she has such, I would put it as like, some people have this inner fire that burns, that motivates them, that also just she has such an inner light that I think makes her just an attractive character, someone that people are drawn to and want to know more about. She has a lot going on inside of her, but she also shows that in her countenance, in her amazing fighting style, right? As we mentioned, and her personality, she's witty as well as, wise.
Yeah.
She is Snips. I love that nickname. I mean, oh gosh, in a family that used to give out nicknames like giving out chips, it's just so much fun to have nicknames.
Angela, I was thinking about her personality and how powerful it is, and that is there any other Star Wars character who has inspired such loyalty as she has with the 501st, honoring her by painting their helmets after her markings and such. And it's because of her, that radiant personality that inspires that devotion.
Very true. Very true. I can't think of anybody else. I don't know. Maybe, I would say maybe Yoda is another one that people seem to gravitate towards in perhaps a similar way. But we don't have that visible, sign like, of course, the 501st painting their helmets. So before we kind of dive a little bit deeper, I did want to, well, I guess this is part of the deep dive. I wanted to talk about her name, Ahsoka, because it's very unique. And so I did some research and would love to hear your thoughts on this. She was originally going to be named Ashla, which is another word for the Force, right? And then she was named by George Lucas after King Ashoka the Great of India, who I had to do a little bit of research myself on him, but he is known in many circles as a proponent of pacifism and one who spread Buddhism. And so that was, I think, one of the reasons that George Lucas chose that name. And it was good old Tony Gilroy who changed the spelling from Ashok to Ahsoka, as we know it today. And she was created for the Clone Wars series, of course, as we've been talking about, to help us understand how Anakin Skywalker went from that rebellious young Padawan to a more serious Jedi who became a master and then ultimately fell. So I think it's really interesting to look back on that and to see just how closely associated with the Force she was from the very inception of her character. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting comparison with the Marian Emperor Ashoka or Ashok. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing it, but the story that I read was that he conquered a great territory in India and saw the vast number of casualties and the death that the war had brought. And that was what changed him to promote a policy of pacifism and particularly this Buddhist form of pacifism that spread throughout all of, what today we know as the nation of India. And and I mean, we know just sort of historically what an influence Buddhism and those Buddhist virtues and ideals had on Lucas as he was developing the Star Wars universe. And so it makes sense that here is a character who sees just the horrors and fallout of war and turns to follow another path, even if it's not exactly a pacifist path.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
I did look up Ahsoka's name, and from The Bump, baby names, they talked about being a Sanskrit origin, and they said that even though the name has, been many different uses, that it still remains to mean pure and hopeful. I was like, how fitting for Ahsoka, because through it all, she did remain pure, looking for that truth. And then I think she had hope, all the way through, that there could be, a better resolve with many things.
That's beautiful. Awesome.
Also made me feel good because Kathryn means pure too. So it's like, yes, got something in common with her.
The translation I found said it literally means without sorrow, which is really interesting, both for the Emperor and again for the Star Wars character, because you get the impression that these are people who knew a great deal of sorrow. And yet, as we know, what in the gospel Christ says, in this world you will have troubles, but be at peace. I have overcome the world. Right. And you can see that by not running from their sorrow, by facing it head on and working through it and turning that sorrow towards something good, towards something positive, they kind of overcome that sorrow and find a deeper peace.
Wow. Man, Star Wars is just so deep when you really look at it. Well, let's take a look at sort of how that story for her developed over time, because as we were talking about at the beginning, Snips sort of caught us by surprise and seemed to be this snippy character. And then all of a sudden now where we are with her is such a different place, and she represents so much. So, what do you think about, if you have any just particular moments or just overall kind of what your thoughts are on how that character arc has really developed and meant to you? If anybody wants to jump in.
Some things that stood out for me, especially as I did lots of rewatching, because why not? It's so much fun. But, one of the first ones that I really enjoyed was watching her train the younglings that were going out for their gathering. What a great story, because that you can almost see that's where she turns from just being, the Padawan of Anakin to she's now taking the lead, and just, her interactions with droids, amazing. It's just so cute, you know, and just the way she finds that hope. There's something else happening out there. And then my favorite thing to watch, because I do have close relationship with my brothers, is her brother-sister relationship with Anakin. You can almost think of it as a comical version of St. Francis and St. Clair.
Yeah. Chris, what about you?
I was really inspired by her compassion, especially in the Siege of Mandalore, Order 66 stages of her journey. For the first time during a rewatch, I noticed that, after Order 66, it's obvious that she's trying not to harm the clones that are trying to kill her. And once Rex has his chip out, she's saying, put your gun on stun. But there's a scene right after Order 66 starts where she is on a table and she's surrounded on all sides by clones who are firing at her. And I watched it, and it's the flurry of lightsabers deflecting all the blaster bolts, and that seems to be normal. But I realized, she had decided. Well, what got me was after she disappeared, she goes up. I'm like, how in the world did the clones not blow themselves away? Because they're all firing, at each other on other sides of this table. And it was that Ahsoka was, okay, I'm going to deflect the bolts, not back at them, but up so I can escape. And then also the compassion she showed at the end by burying the clones. I don't know where we've had other scenes of, we've seen Jedi get burned as part of their funerals, but burials I don't know if we've seen. But all of their helmets are on their graves, which means that she saw each of their faces as she was burying them, and she was one who was also very much concerned about the clones as individuals. So God bless her for that concern she had for people who were even out of control and trying to kill her, and then showing them dignity in their death.
Yeah, if I could just pull from that too, is the moment that I really picked up on in that episode that spoke to me about her character was when she and Rex basically did not see another way out of their situation, either surrender or kill clones. And Rex didn't know what to do. He wasn't happy with surrender. And she could tell he was upset. And before she told him a plan, she removed his helmet, saw that he was crying, and looked at him in the eyes face to face and said, Rex, you are a good soldier. And all of those men out there are too. And I am not going to be the one to kill them. And that was such a moment that really tells you who she is, So she, kind of like what you were saying, Kathryn, she is almost like this mother figure in a way. She has that maternal relationship with especially the clone troopers. But Robert, please go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that you see this right from the beginning in the Tales of the Jedi series that we had recently. We see what brings people to awareness that she is different, that she has this connection to the Force, is her connection to that giant beast out in the wilderness. And she has this ability, like the foundation of her connection to the Force is this outward focused kind of compassion, this sense of connection with other life, with recognizing what's good in them, with recognizing their personality, their agency, where they fit into the order of the universe. And and again, to sort of shoehorn it into Catholic terms, this is, agape, this is love, this is charity, this is the virtue of, that we identify with God himself, is looking on the other and saying, you are good, right?
Beautiful. Let's talk about some of your favorite qualities of Ahsoka. I know we've talked about so much. For me, I would say one of the things, Robert, that, kind of picks up on what you're saying is that sort of love, that when a person has that sort of love, it almost forces us to look for a third way. Just like that example I was mentioning, we tend in our humanity to see the extremes, bad, really bad, good, really good. And or, whatever it is. And oftentimes there is this balance that we need to understand other people, to understand ourselves, to be at peace with, all the chaos that could be going on around us or what have you. But I like that she finds that third way, and she seems to walk this path where she is trying to find the truth and what's good for others. But also, one thing that we haven't mentioned yet is when she walks away from the Order, one of the things that she says is, if they couldn't trust me, then how can I trust myself? So she's talking about finding that inner peace in herself as a reflection on, maybe I need to look at who I am. And that's not something that I tend to remember about that particular moment. I tend to almost color the situation as, well, she saw that the Jedi were bad, they didn't trust her, and so she walked away from them because of that. But one of the reasons that she herself gives is, how can I trust myself? And in that situation, you might think, well, gosh, if you were wrongly accused, then why would you say that? But I think the whole experience had her not only looking at what was wrong with everyone else, but also what do I need to adjust in myself? And that is such an admirable quality. So again, that almost third way or that balance is a quality that I think is my favorite about Ahsoka.
Yeah, it shows her humility, her empathy. She knows that, even finding truth means she might have to self-correct, like you said. She knows that maybe there were things she did in following the Jedi Order that were not the right direction. And I think that was the thing to watch, even in all the shows. You see her kind of stop and reflect. It's like, wait, should we be doing this? And is this the right way to do this? So she always kind of had a different way of looking at things, especially when she was working with Lux, the character, younger, and he had lost his mother. He was on the Separatist side, and I think that's when Ahsoka really started questioning, wait, what's really happening? Is it really the Separatist against the Republic, or is there some other game being played? And I liked that whole character development from that point forward.
Yeah. Chris, what about you? What is maybe one of your favorite qualities of Ahsoka?
Well, I already talked about her compassion. I think it's not related to that at all. I love her fearlessness when she is just leaping out of the troop transport, going down to Mandalore and, running across the ships, blowing off the cockpits so clone guys in. And then also when she rescues Anakin in a Clone Wars episode after he crashes and he's knocked unconscious, and just time and again when there's does she even consider that there's danger? I don't know. She just jumps right in, and that fearlessness I admire, because I need to calculate and plan a lot before I undertake anything remotely risky. So,
yeah. Robert, did you mention your favorite?
I said integrity earlier. I think part of that is that that sense of responsibility for herself and for those around her. I'm not sure that fearlessness is all that unrelated to her compassion. I think it's because she has compassion, because she sees how important her actions and her contributions are to those around her, that she pushes forward without stopping to calculate how bad is this going to hurt me. It's like it needs to be done. I'm the one who needs to do it. It's my responsibility. I'm gonna push forward. And when she does something wrong, whether it's like in early days in Clone Wars when Anakin is always correcting her impulsiveness, or later when she's reevaluating her entire worldview, she is taking responsibility for, what she has done in the past and what she is able to do in the present. And I think this is where, and I hope this is where the upcoming series is going to go, because she's been tracking Thrawn, right? And it very much feels like there's a sense of, I helped allow this evil in the galaxy. I have the responsibility to help bring it to a conclusion. And so, yeah, I see all of these sort of virtues tied together.
We kind of got to see that come to fulfillment when we first saw her live action in The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
You see her fearlessness, her determination, just the way she drove into that fortress, in a sense, with just being her. It's like she's going to step forward until she gets to the resolve, get to the truth, and then just, where is Thrawn? It's just just a powerful drive that she has. And then all the while, the compassion for the people that were in that situation, stuck in that fortress. Yeah.
True.
Yeah. I mean, that's what connected her with Mando, right? Was that they shared a sense of, you know, we're not in this to create collateral damage. We're in this for the sake of everybody in this situation.
Okay. Did we cover everyone's favorites? Right. So let's talk about favorite moments then. I know we've talked about several moments already. For me, I would have to say when she is defending Ezra, and she's defending him against Vader, and she strikes Vader's helmet, and she sees Anakin's face, and she says, "Anakin." And gosh, the way that that's performed, first of all, shout out to Ashley Eckstein, because it was, I know I've seen behind the scenes interviews where they've talked about how everybody was very emotional on that day of recording. But just what that moment meant to Ahsoka, and also what we can only imagine it might have meant to Anakin, just for a split second. So I don't know, maybe you could write a thesis paper on that moment alone. But that's suffice to say, that's one of my favorite Ahsoka moments. Kathryn, how about you?
I have to pick one. I mean,
we'll start with one, and then we'll go around and see if you haven't stolen anyone else's. So.
Well, I'm just going to go right back to the beginning. We talked about it already. Baby Ahsoka. Wow. I mean, the first time I saw her in her little pack with her mom going hunting, I was, yes, this is her beginning. This is how it should have been. Just how inquisitive. And again, there's where the compassion started. Her mom showed her what true compassion is.
Her mother.
Yeah. Fabulous.
Yeah. All right, Chris, how about you?
I think I've already shared my favorite moment, so I'm going to share my most disappointing moment.
Ooh,
but
mixing it up.
It's directly before the moment you talked about, Angela. I started to wonder why Ahsoka couldn't redeem Anakin. Ultimately, I think it's better that his son redeemed him. I like the way his son redeemed him, but before his son was an adult, Ahsoka seemed to be the one who would have been in the best position to bring about Anakin's redemption. Or if she was still in the Jedi Order, I'm not sure Anakin would have fallen. But so the moment right before what you talked about, Angela, was
that's part of that thesis.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. We'll all just write a collective thesis paper.
Yes.
There we go. So before Ahsoka realizes, oh, yes, for sure, this is Anakin, Darth Vader says, you know, I killed Anakin, or I destroyed him, I don't remember. And then she says something like, then I'm going to take revenge or avenge him. And Darth Vader says, that's not the Jedi way. And she says the line, I'm no Jedi. I don't like that line. But what I thought was by taking the path of vengeance at that point, she made that choice to attack. There perhaps was a moment there where there could have been mercy showed, or something that might have gotten into Anakin's heart, or gotten past Darth's heart, you know. But she said, I'm not. She was making a stand to say, I'm not going to do what a Jedi would do, be a peacekeeper. I'm going for vengeance. So that's my most disappointing choice of Ahsoka so far.
I can appreciate that for sure. Although I know all the Tolkien fans who loved that moment because it represents something from Tolkien. They're like yelling at their phone or whatever you're listening to your podcast on. So, Robert, let's hear from you.
Yeah. Oh man. I'm trying to decide what I want to argue with Chris about.
Wait, we could keep this going all night.
Because this is one of those moments or areas where you really see the difference between the worldview of Star Wars and the worldview of the Catholic faith. And you can take it as vengeance, which is, absolutely a vice in a Catholic morality.
Yes.
But vengeance is also, in a sense, a part of the natural virtue of justice.
Right.
And so the way I read that scene, although now I'm going to have to go back and rewatch it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, because she does use the word avenge when she speaks to him.
Yeah. I read it as, I will avenge him, meaning I will reestablish justice in a virtuous sense. And I think, well, and I also wanted to argue with you about the moment of her leaving the order, and maybe there will be time to do that later.
We can have a whole episode on that then. Let's just call it now.
I just got to play into this discussion just a little bit. So,
but I guess if I'm going to throw in a different favorite moment of my own, I'm going to throw in the moment in that episode in The Mandalorian where she refuses to train Grogu. Which kind of shows how far her sense of self-knowledge and humility, and at the same time compassion and responsibility have come to. And she's clearly at a point where it's like, I don't know what the best thing to do for this child is. I know it's not me. And as tempting as it is to use whatever power and wisdom I have to guide this child, I know that's not the best thing. And so I'm going to step back from that and let go of control of the situation. And let Grogu be Grogu, and let Mando be Mando, and let Ahsoka be Ahsoka.
Okay, I got to play off of both of those now.
Go for it.
Well, first of all, we got to go with the Grogu thing. Ahsoka is the only character who could have introduced us to his name. I don't think there's any other character that could have said Grogu for the first time and make it as believable. Because quite honestly, nobody was expecting to hear Grogu. And it's just, at first you're going, what? But then when you hear Ahsoka say it, it's like, oh yeah, that's his name. You just, yes, okay, it makes sense now. Okay, now to go back to the vengeance thing. I don't know if Ahsoka's avenging Anakin necessarily meant death. I think Ahsoka's the only one who fully realized how divided Anakin was. I think she's the only one who knew him as the fullness of his potential as her master, and at the same time that he was deceiving himself. Because I think she had an inkling of the whole romance with Padme. They were best friends. Oh, yeah. So I think that,
yes.
Yeah, I think that she, she knew that he was, in a sense, split before he became Darth Vader. And then he really split. I mean, the guy broke his brain, literally. So, yeah. But yeah, I think she was trying to do what she does and try to bring healing and resolve, she could have taken his face off. She just cracked the helmet. I think she was trying to get him to see, to really see with his true self. So I don't know where that came from, but there you go. That's
Let
my
me see for once with my own eyes. Kind of thing.
There you go.
Yeah. Wow. Well, gosh, there's so many things that we've discussed that I think we can learn from Ahsoka. So many lessons that we can learn from this character, which is amazing because she is a character, and I think kudos to Dave Filoni that, and I mean, George Lucas, was the one who introduced Ahsoka to us, but she is such a full character who teaches so many lessons. So I'd like to learn from you all. If you've learned a lesson from Ahsoka, what would you say it is? For me, I would say it is to make peace with my reality. Because there have been so many times during the Clone Wars, just in war, but also in the internal battles that we've discussed, in the unrest, with her master. So many things that she displays this sense of that responsibility, that she needs to make peace with what is going on and to seek that out, and to not be in conflict with what's happening. A lot of times when we are in those difficult situations, we want to fight against what's happening. We because we don't like it, we don't want to accept that it's our reality. So, but the only way that we can find a way past, I guess, ourselves, are many times our biggest obstacle. So to be able to make progress and to help others and to help ourselves, we need to make that peace. So I would say that's the lesson I've learned from her for sure. How about y'all?
To get back up.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Every lesson that makes you fall, get back up. And I loved that about her in the Tales of the Jedi, when we got to see practice makes perfect, and watch her just, fall down, get back up, fall down, get back up. That's a valuable lesson. And it's one I like to actually use when I'm coaching volleyball. It's like every mistake can be something you learn from.
Do you knock your players out? Like Anakin let Ahsoka get knocked out and have them...
No comment.
I don't know if
We're not going to get her in trouble on this podcast.
Everybody's got volleyballs and they're throwing them.
Let's just say Coach doesn't lay off on the down ball. I'm not throwing a wrench. No.
A lesson that I learned also comes from that same storyline, but for me it would be trust your master. Because we see that Anakin was right to train her to be able to fight clones like that. And a spiritual guide, a pastor, a pope, a magisterium, our Lord. It is good to trust your master, or to trust that, in the Catholic context, that Jesus is able to guide you through his intermediaries, a pastor, a pope, a spiritual director. And because it's a human intermediary, I'm not advocating a blind trust in the human person, but trust your master. She shows trust your master, even though you don't understand what you are currently going through is going to pay off or affect you.
Thanks for sharing that. It's powerful.
Yeah. I like that, especially in that episode, the reason that Anakin is driving her so hard, you can see, is coming out of his own pride. It's coming out of his own failure. You know, you've got to be better than all the rest. My Padawan has got to be the best, kind of. You know, so there's an element of vice in the master, but in trusting the process of learning, she still learns the virtue. And I think that's fantastic. Yeah.
If we can apply that just real quick, I remember when remember when Kanan was dealing with Darth Maul wanting to take Ezra as his own Padawan, and Kanan was constantly trying to get Ezra to listen to him. Then, you know, he was trying to tell him, Maul is using you and he's going to tell you whatever he wants to try to get you on his side. And finally, you know, they're going back and forth, and Kanan is with Ahsoka, and Ahsoka just tells Kanan, he's going to be all right. And Kanan was like, how can you say that? What makes you say that?
Right.
And she says, because you taught him. And that's what shut Kanan up. So she's like, you have to trust your master, right? And you have to trust yourself as a master, which is kind of cool too. Sort of a flip side to that.
The lesson I take from Ahsoka is I think she really embodies a saying that I've often heard attributed to Mother Teresa of Calcutta, that we are called to be faithful, not to be successful. And I mean, that this kind of goes along, you know, get up when you fall down, get up. It's that you know what you are called to do, and you may or may not see the fruits of it. But you do it because it is who you are, and it is good for you to do it. And that's enough. And she, her whole career is kind of learning that lesson and embodying that lesson.
Yeah, that's awesome. Oh my gosh, you all, this whole discussion has just opened up this whole new world for us to explore in the podcast. And I think we've fulfilled the ultimate reason for having this episode before the series actually airs. And so before we close and let everyone know what we're going to be doing for the series, what are your last observations or insights or just notes that you want to share about Ahsoka in general? If I had to say anything, just again, Ashley Eckstein. I know we have Rosario Dawson as a wonderful live action performer to give us more Ahsoka, but of course, got to give credit where credit's due with Ashley Eckstein walking into this role, not knowing where it was going to go, not knowing how it was going to be received, and just how she herself has created such beautiful opportunities for people, for women in Star Wars, for young girls, for now she's advocating for mental health awareness. And so all the beautiful things that she's done through this character as well. I just wanted to add that before we, move into this new sort of era with Ahsoka in live action. So yeah, that's my note.
I just have to say the best dual lightsaber style of all of them. I loved how she has the sabers when she's arms down go behind her. So she's got like this backhanded style, which I find just fascinating.
Yeah.
I want to see Ahsoka join the Jedi Order again. I want to see her be knighted by the ghost of Anakin or Luke Skywalker.
Wow.
I want her to reverse her choice about leaving the Jedi Order now that, assuming we're saying the Jedi Order is back in Luke Skywalker. I found it again in those Siege of Mandalore episodes when she is telling Mace Windu, Kadi Mundi, is that his name? And Yoda's there, and then the blue-skinned female Jedi, I don't remember her name. She's asked, "Are you bringing him to us as a Jedi?" And she says, "No, not a Jedi." And then she says, "Not yet." And it seemed to leave the door open that she might move closer to the Jedi Order again. And then as Yoda says goodbye to her, he says, "May the Force be with you, Padawan." He doesn't sort of let her not be a Jedi, right? So I'm just putting it out there. I'd like to see in the Ahsoka series that she somehow comes back to the Jedi Order.
I think of the many things that will happen. I don't think that's one. I mean, partly because I think, the sequel trilogy is kind of established that Luke's reestablishment of the Jedi Order has not gone well, and that we're going to see the real reestablishment under Rey. And, like that decision or not, I think that's kind of the way the franchise is going.
I think there would be room for her to be a Jedi Knight during this Thrawn conflict. And maybe she doesn't make it out of that. And so then Luke is then left to try his school that falls apart.
So ultimately, Luke is still at fault. Is that what you're saying?
When in doubt, blame Luke. Okay. Which is, fair enough. I wonder, oh gosh, like, I think you have like a sense of the meaning of being a Jedi that I don't know. I don't know. We don't have a whole lot of time. I don't think we, but I think this is maybe like the root of why you think she was wrong to walk away from the Order, and I think she was right to.
Right.
Okay, well, we'll add that to the list of podcast episodes. What does it mean to be a Jedi? Okay.
What does it mean? I think that would be a great episode. And I have to say, I'm coming from an experience myself of discerning a life within a religious order and discovering that, no, it was not a good fit for me. And so like living within living the life of a vowed religious and then returning to the secular world is a very, I don't know. There's a lot going on in there, and I recognize a lot of that in Ahsoka. And so that's like a personal connection I have to her, but I think it's also a step of discernment of being willing to say, oh, a decision I made, like I made the right decision to follow that path in the first place, but it's not a wrong decision to step away from it. To recognize this is not my final path, that I am going a different direction. So yeah, that's
well,
I guess I will leave that.
Definitely, we'll definitely pick that up again. Yeah. Okay. Well, did you have any other final thoughts, Robert, before we completely hijacked this discussion here?
I mean, just that Ahsoka has been so well written and so well performed, both by Ashley Eckstein and I think Rosario Dawson has done an amazing job sort of taking up the mantle of the character. I am just terrified of setting my expectations so high that they cannot be met by anything in real reality.
I hear that.
I want to be able to enjoy the show for what it is. And I mean, like anything, it's going to have its flaws, but I want to just let it, again, let Anakin be Anakin, let Ahsoka be Ahsoka, let the show be the show.
True. Yeah. Well, I think we'll always take away some meaningful things from whatever it is that we see, because that's, I think, in our nature anyway, but also because, as long as Star Wars kind of sticks to the general, what Star Wars ultimately is about that quest and about that that choice that we all have, then I think we'll be okay. So I'm hopeful, as we said earlier, her name means. So yes.
Nice.
All right. Well, we want to hear what all of you have to say about all of this that we've discussed. What from this discussion do you want us to make a whole nother episode about? Because we can definitely do that. So send us your feedback. Any questions, any comments, Star Wars are also welcome. So you can send those to us via email, starwars@sqpn.com. You can send us I don't know what it's called now, but it used to be called a tweet at SQPN. You can also find us on Facebook if you're there, facebook.com/StarQuestMedia. And we want to encourage you, if you have heard of Discord, if you've not heard of Discord, it's basically like an old message board type of server. We've got a Discord server and we've got hundreds of folks on there already talking about all things SQPN, but we also have a special channel for Star Wars. So you can join us there. Just go to sqpn.com/Discord to get the invitation. Our Ahsoka series discussions will follow the 2-episode premiere, which is going to be on August 23rd, 2023. So do not miss that deep dive of the Ahsoka series coming in a couple weeks. You can subscribe to Secrets of Star Wars to make sure you don't miss out on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or on the SQPN YouTube channel. And of course, you can find links and more and previous episodes at sqpn.com/Star Wars. It's been a great time, y'all. Until next time, Kathryn Laffrey, thank you for joining the crew today.
Thank you. And as Ahsoka would say, never give up hope, no matter how dark things seem. Keep that in mind in case there's a storyline you don't like in the show.
And Chris Hagen, thank you for joining us as well and mixing it up today.
Oh, you're very welcome.
And Robert King, thank you for sharing your super Ahsoka fandom. We appreciate it.
It's great to be able to. Thanks.
And once again, I'm the one in the middle, the Bendu, Angela Sealana. Thank you for joining us and listening to Secrets of Star Wars on StarQuest.
Here's another show on the StarQuest network you're sure to enjoy. The Secrets of Technology. Find it wherever fine podcasts are found or at sqpn.com/technology.